Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam and this is a European snowball bush. I covered the Chinese snowball bush in a couple videos on the channel. The Chinese snowball bush is not as cold hardy as this one. It only goes up to maybe zone 6 and then into warmer areas. It gets very large clusters of flowers like this big. But the European snowball bush actually gets more flower clusters. They're only about baseball size, but they're equally as showy. When they're in bloom, you know, they're just absolutely covered in flowers from top to bottom. This plant's extremely cold hardy. It can grow in zones 3 and down to zone 8. This is Viburnum opulus roseum, or like I said, European snowball bush. I've always called it an Eastern snowball bush. These are sterile flowers on this variety. It does not get berries in the fall. It gets covered in these flowers in the spring and it gets decent fall color, kind of an orangey red fall color. You can get just the Viburnum opulus, which is some people call a European cranberry bush, and it actually gets a cranberry looking fruit on it in the fall. It's not edible, but it's, you know, quite attractive and it gets nice fall foliage. So if you see these two plants, if you're looking for the snowball bush, you're looking for Viburnum opulus roseum. If you're looking for that cranberry variety that I think, to me, it has a flat cluster of white flowers in the spring, but it actually, to me, offers more seasons of the year. It's doing something interesting, and I've grown that one and sold it in the past. It sometimes gets mixed up in the trade. Sometimes I've seen these tagged, you know, I've seen a whole group tagged as roseum, you know, the snowball bush like this, and then, you know, some of them are mixed in or actually have that flat cluster of white flowers. It's actually the one that I prefer because, like I say, it gives me more interest, and I'll do that video when I put that one up. But this one is quite beautiful when it's in full flower. I've gone through 2 batches of these in 2 weeks at the garden center because people get out of their cars and, you know, this flower is just absolutely beautiful. This cluster is beautiful. This one only has 3 or 4 on it. In future years, it'll just be white from the ground all the way up. We can prune these to control the height after they flower. They'll flower mid-spring into early summer, just depending on where you are in that zones 3 to zone 8. I'm in 7B, and so they're blooming quite early here. It'll be weeks before they start to bloom in zones 3, 4, or 5. We'll prune them after they flower to control the height, but really where I'm putting it, I can let it get 10 or 12 feet tall and I can let it get 10 feet wide, and I'm not gonna worry too much about it. I'll fertilize this plant after I put it in the ground with some plant tone and organic fertilizer. Should be done once in the spring, and that'll be adequate. This plant is industrial. It doesn't really get any disease problems. It doesn't really get any kind of pest problems. It's mildly deer resistant. Deer might go after it in a harsh winter, a harsh time, but it's on most deer resistant list. Has a really, really beautiful maple-like foliage on there that I hope you can see right there. It's really, really quite nice. Even after it flowers, it's offering some nice foliage. I'm going to plant this over here in my white garden. This is a good in-between time period flowering shrub. It's kind of weird right now. If I drive around in my area, a lot of the azaleas are almost finished blooming. Of course, the deciduous magnolias and a lot of the flowering trees have already finished blooming. And we kind of go through a lull where there's not a lot blooming in mid to late spring, and in the summer, all the summer flowering things, all the roses and perennials and all those things are awake and people have their annuals in and you see more color again, but there's always this lull into late spring. This is a good plant to kind of fill in that period of time that's after the early spring flowering things and before the summer things start to flower. Not really much to know on planting this plant. I don't think I could hurt it unless I buried it too deep, kept it too wet. I won't cover anything that's not covered on it. When you purchase the plant, just make sure you can see everything you can see going into that soil when you're done planting it. And I'll keep it mulched lightly. Other than that, not much to know. That if you're looking for a cold, hardy, super, super showy spring flowering shrub, this European snowball bush is a great choice for that. So here it is in the ground. Look how much growth this thing has put on it. All that light green stem. This thing wakes up in the spring and is in a big hurry. It can grow a foot or 2 really, really quickly in the early spring. When the summer heat kicks in, it pretty much stops growing. So You know, but it is fast growing. It can put on a lot of growth very quickly when it wakes up in the spring. This is definitely a full sun or part shade plant. If you put this in the deep shade, it'll stretch out on you. Probably will live and grow fine. It just won't give you a lot of flowers though, probably, and just be a very thin plant. But these are just really, really beautiful flowers, and they'll finish with a tinge of pink or red in them later. Thank you very much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for future videos. Thanks for watching.